Coming up, will the real Frankenstein's monster please stand up? On classic 1960s sitcom The Munsters, Herman Munster is the patriarch of the clan and the spitting image of Universal Studios' Frankenstein's monster. But is he actually the Frankenstein's monster, the same one from the classic Universal Monsters film series? Well, hold on a second. The show actually established there are at least 3 different monsters created by Dr. Frankenstein. Find out all the details next on Monster Complex.
Monster Complex.
Hey monster fans, Chris Well here to celebrate some of my favorite stories of all time. At monstercomplex.com, I cover all kinds of monster stories in all kinds of formats, including books, and movies, and TV shows, and comic books and cartoons, and music and stage productions. And of course there's more than that. If you like that kind of stuff too, make sure that you subscribe below right now and click the bell so you always know when our latest stuff comes out. You can also visit me online at monstercomplex.com, where I have lots of news and articles about stuff like this. At the time of this recording, it's getting close to the new year, and New Year's Day is actually the anniversary of when Mary Shelley's novel Frankenstein was published back in 1818. To celebrate the anniversary of her impactful book, we're actually going to talk about its connection to one of my favorite television shows, The Munsters. In fact, it's probably important to let you know that I love The Munsters. I have loved them since I was a little kid. I have loved them all throughout school, and even though years have passed, I love them now. In fact, it's possible that I have written more about the Munsters on my website, Monster Complex, than I have written about anything else. So here we are with the first official episode of the Monster Complex show. And the big question we're looking at now is Herman Munster really Frankenstein's monster? Let's start with the original story. Published in 1818, the original novel Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus by author Mary Shelley, is a novel full of grief and longing and the struggle with isolation, as well as the hubris of climbing the ladder of science without regard for morality or the ramifications and responsibility of unexpected success. Shelley's novel Frankenstein has survived 200 years of creative adaptations and intellectual discussions. The version of the monster in the original novel is quite different from what we often see in adaptations. He is articulate, conflicted, and actually looks quite different than we've been trained to assume. There's a lot to discuss about Mary Shelley's novel, which is why we've talked about it more than once at monstercomplex.com. The novel Frankenstein has endured because it represents so much to so many. A classic of Western literature, a rousing story of terror, a gothic romance, a tragedy. It is also considered one of the first, if not the first, works of science fiction. In the more than 200 years since its first publication, the legend of Frankenstein has been recounted, remixed, retread, and rebooted into so many formats. The monster of Frankenstein has been adapted in books, movies, TV shows, cartoons, comic books, stage productions, toys, theme park attractions, and more. Now let's look at one of the most famous adaptations of that book. Although the novel Frankenstein has inspired hundreds of variations, one of the most famous adaptations is the series of movies from the Universal Monsters. In fact, when you say the word Frankenstein, most people probably see an image of Boris Karloff made up as the creature for the movies in the 1930s. From the 1920s through to the 1950s, Universal Monsters was the go-to place for classic monster movies. Over the years, as they latched onto franchise characters that could carry a film series, soon came the urge to have the various monsters meet up. As such, they found ways to combine monster movie icons Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, and the Wolfman into a single narrative. It wasn't always great, but it's almost always fun. Most of these movies were made before television was even in normal homes. But as TV became a normal thing, the studio found new audiences watching their movies and loving them. And eventually they said, what if we make an actual TV show? Which brings us back to the Munsters. Although the original pitch to the network had more in common with the Addams Family, Universal wanted to lean more heavily on the monsters they had done in their movies over the previous decades. In the pantheon of sitcom families, there are few, if any, as memorable as the Munsters. The original series, which ran on CBS from 1964 to 1966, featured a family of monsters. The man and woman of the house were Herman Munster, an artificial man patched together from dead bodies, and Lily Munster, the daughter of Count Dracula. Their little boy Eddie was a werewolf, and their niece Marilyn was a regular human being. Poor thing. Also in the house was Lily's father, known as Grandpa, and who was Count Dracula. The Munsters, despite airing only 2 seasons, has continued to delight viewers through reruns and a series of reunions, revisits, and reboots. Herman, who was played in the original series by actor Fred Gwynne, was said to have been built in Germany by Dr. Frankenstein in the mid to late 1800s. But for today's topic, I have to point out that Herman was not the only one of his kind. We first discover there's more than one Frankenstein's monster in the episode Knockwood, Here Comes Charlie. Charlie Munster, Herman's twin brother, is a con man who puts on a sophisticated air. In that episode, he even tries to con his own family by selling them a phony machine that he claims can extract uranium from seawater. And even that brother wasn't the end of the family saga. We discover there's another Frankenstein's monster in the episode A Visit from Johan. Dr. Frankenstein IV, the great-grandson of the original Dr. Frankenstein, arrives with Johan, whom he found wandering in the woods in Germany, and who appears to be the same monster from the original Universal Monsters movies, although he is also played by Fred Gwynne. 1960s sitcoms loved the mix-ups caused by identical characters. Johan's behavior indicates he's the same Frankenstein's monster portrayed in the movies originally by Boris Karloff. He's even dressed the same way that he appeared in the movie Son of Frankenstein. And that's when we knew there were at least 3 versions of the Frankenstein's monster in the Munsters universe. Thank you so much for watching. Of all the adaptations of the original Frankenstein's monster, what are your favorite examples? Whether you're thinking of movies, or TV episodes, or something that was printed, or something music-related, whichever are your favorites, I want to know. Let me know in the comments below. If you want more information about any of the related topics that I talked about in this video, there are more articles at monstercomplex.com. If you're watching this episode on the website itself, I've posted links to those articles on the page below where the video is sitting. If you're watching this on YouTube, I've added links to those articles in the description of the video. Also below, let me know what are your favorite stories with monsters. In the comments below, let me know which of these kinds of stories you want me to talk about in future episodes of the show. I'd also love if you'd visit me at monstercomplex.com. I post new articles every week about monster stories from books, movies, TV shows, comics, and more. Until next time, remember, maybe you can relax in a haunted house. Catch you later, friends.
Monster Complex.